This is going to be the second part of our Angular Dapp setup using Moralis and ExpressJs. In the first part, we saw how to log in and get user details and display it in the user component. And we can also implement the sign out functionality. So in this part, we are going to be taking a look at how we are going to be transferring token from one account to another account using MetaMask. So let's get started. So inside our user component, I've just commented out the sessions that we were displaying before, and I've just added a mat toolbar and a mat tab group, where in mat toolbar, I'm just going to be displaying the wallet balance later on, the wallet address, and also we're going to be displaying our sign out button. And inside our mat tab group, we're going to have three tabs, where the first tab is going to be related to the transfer of tokens from one wallet to another wallet, and the second is going to be the price chart that we're going to be discussing in our third part of this video, where I'm just going to be showing historic price of a selected token. And other than that, in the third mat tab, we are going to be having our swap tokens component. So after doing this, this is what it's going to be looking like. So we have our header, the balance is going to be displayed here, the wallet address, and the sign out function. So here you can see we have three tab groups. Okay, so now we are going to be looking at how we're going to be making our transfer component. So for that, I'm just going to be now creating three components for each individual mat tab group. As I said, I've created these components, and in the mat tab group, I'm just importing those components that we have just created. So just going to save it, and let's take a look. You can see that it says the transfer works, price chart works, and even the swap token works. So now we are going to be working on all transfer tokens. So we are going to be working in our transfer component now. Let's get started. So before we get started with our transfer components, make sure you guys import all these material modules, because we're going to be needing in our transfer components. So what we are actually going to doing is just we're going to be creating a card kind of form where it's going to have two buttons, transfer and receive. So for that, I'm just going to be creating first our container class, and then I'm just going to be creating a mat card, because we're going to be displaying a card kind of structure where it's going to have two buttons, for one is for transfer and one is for receiving. So the buttons I'm going to be creating going to be called as send and receive, and for that to work, we're going to be having a click function where we are going to be creating some functions. And after that, I'm just creating an ng container here for the send transaction button, because once we click the send transaction button, we need to display one form, and once we click a receive, we need to display another form. That is why I'm going to be using ng container to uh, make an if condition where when send is clicked, display some functionalities, and when this receive is clicked, display another functionality. So for in our send, for this button, we are going to be creating firstly a form. So this is going to be very straightforward. We're just creating a forms for the send transactions. So I'm not going to be explaining a lot of this, because this is very easy. And So in our transfer.ts file, we're going to be importing our form group and form controller because we're going to be creating a form. And I'm just going to create an interface for the token because we're going to need this later on. I'm going to be explaining when we use it. So now I'm just going to create some variables like send button clicked, receive button clicked. This is to toggle between the send and receive button clicked because we are going to be displaying two different things for the send button clicked and the receive button clicked. Next is going to be creating a form group named as transfer form, and we're going to be having three fields, that is the amount, to, and pay. So the amount is going to be the number of amount of tokens you're going to be paying, and two is where you're going to be entering the wallet address of the other account that you're going to be transferring to, and the pay will be an option that you're going to be paying from within your wallet. And next is you're going to create a variable known as token, and after that I'm just going to create two functionalities to show different kinds of form whenever the button is clicked, and we are going to be needing the values of whatever the user has filled here in the form control. That is why I'm going to be using a getter function. So I'm just going to say get the this, and I'm just going to return this as a form control. It's the same for other two. And after that we are going to be needing the on submit functionality, where once we click on the submit function the transfer needs to happen. So let's just save this and take a look where we are at. So you can see we are being displayed some things. We need to format this now. So for the css I've already uh, copy and pasted the css because this can be done according to your needs. So I'm just going to be showing, if you guys need this, you can pause the video and copy all this. Also I'm going to be providing the GitHub link for all this. Make sure you guys take a look at that. So once that is done, this is how it's going to be looking. So you can see that by default we are displaying the send, and when I click receive you're going to see another interface. Here we are going to be displaying our QR code for our wallet so that when you scan you can directly send the tokens. So this is how the token this is how the transfer component is going to be looking like. Now we are going to be implementing all the functionalities needed for this to complete. So we are going to be using Moralis to complete this. So before we implement any functionality for the transfer token, the first thing we need to know is how many tokens does the wallet have. So according to my account one, the number of assets that I have is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we are going to be needing to fetch these first, so that when the user clicks pay with, we are going to be displaying all this. So for that we need to get the token owned by the wallet. So for that head over to Moralis, and in token API you can see that get ERC token by wallet. So we are now going to be using this endpoint. So now in our node.js server file I'm just going to be creating that endpoint known as slash token, where we are going to be sending the address and chain from our front end, and this is the endpoint that we just saw here. You can take a look at this, get wallet token balance, get wallet token balances. So that is the same endpoint that I've been using here. So this is going to be our token endpoint, and now we are going to be sending requests from our front end to this server to fetch all the tokens owned by that wallet. So now this would be a great time to create a service, because we are going to be implementing a lot of functionalities, and it's a good practice to create a service folder and have all the logic and core functionalities of our app done in the service folder, and then we're going to be using that in our components. So now I'm just going to be creating our service known as Moralis. After creating the Moralis service, we are going to be needing the imports. So I'm just going to be giving this imports. Make sure you guys take a look at this, all these imports. I've already explained majority of these imports in the first video. And also there's one more thing, for the transfer of tokens from one wallet to another wallet. Fortunately, there is no endpoint in the Moralis API. That is why we are going to be using another third-party API known as ThirdWeb. So we are also going to be importing this in our Moralis servers. ThirdWeb also provides a lot of functionalities, but for us, we just need to have the transfer functionality. So we are going to be using ThirdWeb. Make sure you read the documentation of ThirdWeb to have a basic idea about what we are going to be doing now. So inside the ThirdWeb docs, head over to the wallet information and you can see the wallet action. Inside that, we're going to be using this transfer where you can send the token from one wallet to another. Here we are going to be providing the wallet address, and this is going to be the amount of tokens we are going to be sending, and this is the contract address of the token that we are going to be sending. So we are going to be implementing this. So before that, we need to be installing the ThirdWeb. So I'm just going to copy this, and okay, so while that is getting installed, the import for this is for the wagmi that we are going to be using. uh, we are going to be needing the user information. That is why we are going to be implementing it here in our Moralis service. From here we are going to be implementing all the majority of the functions and then calling those functions in our component. And third verb is for transfer of tokens, and Axios is for the making HTTP calls. So inside our service folder, we are going to be creating the client that we have already done in the sign in component, that I'm going to be moving it here because we are going to be needing all the information after the user is connected. So I'm just going to create this functionalities again here in the Moralis service. After this, we are going to be needing what chain the user is on. That is why I'm going to be creating this functionality. And after that, we are going to be implementing our transfer token functionality. So we have created already the token slash token endpoint. So from our front end, we are going to be making request to this. So that is why I've created this get token function where we are going to have this value, and we are going to say await access.post. For this endpoint, we are going to be passing user data here. User data is going to be the information of the user that we get here. So here you can see that we have returned this data. So what we're going to be doing is, from our transfer token.ts file, we are going to be calling this, get user data, and then we are going to be passing that user data to our get tokens. So what this is going to return us is all the tokens that a wallet has for the connected wallet. So let's implement that. So for that, first I need to be importing our services in our constructor. So now I'm going to create a function known as transfer token, where I'm going to be calling our Moralis server to get the user data, and then I'm going to be passing that data to the get tokens, where we are going to be getting all our tokens for the connected wallet. And the next is on submit, we are going to again get the user data and then get the chain that we are on. So now I'm getting the wallet address, the amount, and the contract address selected here in our drop down. So this value is from our getter function that we are getting all the values from our forms. So after that, we are going to be creating another function in our Moralis server, and let's call it transfer tokens. And for that, I'm going to be passing this wallet address, amount, and contract address. This is because you can see here, once we go down to the, you can see that the first parameter passed here is the wallet address, the second is the amount, and the third is the token contract address. So that is what we are going to be doing here in our transfer token. So once I create this functionality in a Moralis server, you'll understand the concept of how this is working. And after that, I'm going to be resetting the form, because once the transfer is done, we need to make sure that the form is reset. So now let's go and create our transfer token functionality in our Moralis server. So before we add the functionality for our Moralis server, we are going to be needing a private key from the third web. You can head over to the third web and get your private key from here. So I'm just going to be pasting my private key here. And after that, in our Moralis server, I'm going to be creating those functionalities we talked about here in the transfer token. So you can see that the transfer token has three parameters, that is wallet address, amount, and the contract address. These are the same parameters that I'm been providing here. The values are coming from here. So I'm just going to, so the first thing is we need to call the get chain, because we are going to be needing on what chain the transaction is going to be done. And uh, because we need to know that the transaction is in process, I'm just going to type this for the moment, and then later we're going to be implementing all the loading screens and everything. So in our try block, we are going to get our private key. The first thing is that we get the private key from the environment, and we need to instantiate an SDK for the third web. If you're not clear with this, you can head over to initializing the SDK from private key. Here you can see that we need to establish our SDK, so that is what I'm doing here. And after that, I'm just going to say await sdk.wallet.transfer. This is the functionality from here. You can see that this is the same line that I have written here. And here we are going to be providing this wallet address, the amount, and the contract address we just got from our transfer component.ts file. So this is it. It's very simple and straightforward. If you just go and take a look at the docs given in the third web, it's very simple and straightforward, because all we need to provide is the wallet address and the amount of tokens we need to transfer, and the contract address of the token. If you don't know how you're going to be having the tokens in our MetaMask. I've already explained this in the first video of my YouTube channel where we are creating the CryptoPunks and everything. Just follow along that for creating the fake tokens for your wallet. So I guess this is it. Let's take a look if this works. So let's try it out. So I'm just going to copy the wallet address of the second account, and we're going to paste our wallet address, and let's say we send TRX, and we're going to be sending one TRX. I'm just going to click transfer. You can see it's working. Transfer transaction in process. So it does take a little bit of time. Yeah, you can see the transaction is completed. So let's go and check in our wallet one. I had 38 TRX, and you can see that we have 37 TRX now, and it's working. So this is it for this tutorial.